If you've ever visited Cape Cod, you've crossed over the Cape Cod Canal using one of 3 bridges. For decades, these steel structures have been a staple of daily life for both locals and visitors alike. But it wasn't always this way. There was a time when the land was connected before the creation of the widest sea level canal in the world, which turned Cape Cod from a peninsula into an island. Producer Dave Fraser takes us on a journey to explore the history of the canal and the impact that it had on the Cape.
For many of us who travel to the Cape, we feel as though we have not made it until we've crossed the bridge. The Sagamore, Bourne, and Railroad bridges have become the unofficial gateway to Cape Cod. But did you ever wonder about the canal that those bridges traverse? Today, it is an important waterway for navigators and a recreational resource for many. But the idea for the canal dates back to the 1620s.
There were 2 rivers here before, the Scusset and the Manamet, that both went inland, but kind of in different directions. And it had been a place where the Wampanoag would carry their canoes across from one river to the other when they were crossing from the Cape Cod Bay to Buzzards Bay. 1623, you had Miles Standish saying we should put a canal through here.
Meanwhile, the treacherous outer shores of Cape Cod stranded many ships, claiming nearly a wreck a week, according to historians, during the height of the commercial shipping era, giving the Outer Cape the ominous nickname of the Graveyard of the Atlantic.
This was basically an avenue of commerce. Ships had to go around here between Boston and New York. It was estimated that between 1626 and the mid-20th century, there were between 3,000 and 4,000 shipwrecks along Cape Cod's outer beach.
Attempts to build a canal had been unsuccessful until, in 1904, a wealthy financier named August Belmont moved ahead with a plan to connect the Monument and Scusset rivers. Along with civil engineer William Barclay Parsons, Belmont was confident they could succeed where others had failed. In June of 1909, construction started on the canal. Dredges of various sizes dug from each bay toward the middle. Bad weather, clay, and large boulders slowed the progress. A narrow-gauge railroad was installed to move dirt and equipment back and forth.
They finally come to this center point that they've set up, Foley's Dyke, and that's the place where they have the ceremony of the joining of the waters, and they cut through, and suddenly Cape Cod Bay and Buzzards Bay are connected.
2 drawbridges and a railroad bridge were installed along with a passenger ferry to allow people to cross the canal. Belmont's canal, however, never achieved the level of traffic or revenue its investors had envisioned, and in the end, it was deemed a financial failure.
He did it entirely with his own funding and funding that he was able to get together with the idea that he would be able to pay it off and make a profit from the tolls. Well, that never really happened for a number of reasons, and I think that probably Belmont ended up losing money on the canal.
Seeing value in this waterway, the U.S. government purchased the canal in 1928 and began construction to widen and deepen it, as well as build 3 new bridges.
Now, all 3 bridges that were constructed along the Cape Cod Canal were financed underneath the National Industrial Recovery Act of 1933. That's your New Deal program. About $4.6 million was allocated to the canal, and it put many local people to work during their construction.
Both bridges, the Sagamore and Bourne, are the same height as the Brooklyn Bridge in New York. Thousands of cars and trucks cross over them daily, more so in the summertime. The railroad bridge was the longest of its kind when it was built. Aided by counterweights, it takes 2.5 minutes for the center span to lower for approaching trains. Today, the Cape Cod Canal is not only a navigable waterway, snaking its way between Cape Cod Bay and Buzzards Bay, it is a recreational resource for fishing, biking, and sightseeing.
We see roughly about 15,000 vessels that go through the Cape Cod Canal every year. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers operates a marine traffic control center. that allow us to communicate with and track all vessels. There's a little bit more than 1,100 acres of federal lands that surround the canal. We're visited by about 3 million people annually.
It's a really important engineering marvel. It's still the widest sea level canal in the world, and it made Cape Cod an island. It wasn't a peninsula anymore.